Now, I think these are the 9 things you need to consider about before you even think of purchasing a car. So let's get started. Now, of course, you guys have been doing the most diligent thing. You have been saving your money using your two-wheel drive to get around, or your Legacy Benz, whichever one suits you best, to get to your destinations, whether it's work, girlfriend's house, clubs, bars, wherever you want to go, or use the bus system, whichever one it is. Now, you have now graduated to the point where you've either saved enough money, put money aside, or you feel you need a car and you need one as soon as possible. Now, these are the 9 things I believe that you should consider before you even purchase a car. Now, of course, I'm going to go down this list, and if you need to get a paper and pen, I'll give you 5 seconds to do so. And we are back. So now the first thing I think you should consider, of course, is the cost of the car, the whole cost, as in what amount are you willing to spend? What amount have you saved up that you want to consider purchasing a car? Is it 5,000? Is it 1,000? Is it 500? Whatever it is, you need to consider how much you actually do want to spend on that car to make sure you can actually afford it. Now, of course, I would suggest, as always, that you should be able to purchase the car outright if you are still on the path of saving enough, trying to save as much money as you can. Now, of course, if you can't do that, it is still okay to get a car note. That is what most people do anyway. You just need to make sure that you have a good plan to pay it off on a monthly basis, depending on how long the car note will be for. Now, that's the first one. Now, the second thing I think you need to consider when you are purchasing a car, because this all deals with money and finance, you need to consider how much taxes you might actually need to pay for that car. Now, of course, if you, let's say, use 5,000 as the amount you want to pay for a car, you have 5,000, and most states have taxes for cars. Some states have it just where as soon as you purchase that car, it's more like a sales tax. You pay the taxes, and that's the only tax you pay ever for the car. Some states where I am, you usually pay some kind of property tax on a yearly basis. You have to try and consider that. Look into that to see what the rates are for those cars, because that indirectly increases your cost of your vehicle. It's not just going to be $5,000 and you have that vehicle and you're chilling. Now it's $5,000 plus taxes. Now, the third thing I think you guys should also consider, remember, this is a finance page. The third thing is the insurance cost. Now, sometimes I realize that some people don't actually think of insurance until after they've purchased a car, because why? Most states, I don't know, I don't live in all states, but the one I live in, before you can drive the car out of the lot, the dealer usually has to confirm that you have insurance. Now, if you don't have insurance, they might have you sign something off stating that you recognize that you're not having insurance and you're driving the car anyway. So in case police stops you, you might get in trouble. Or, or you can't. If you can say my bad and get away from it, hey, do what you got to do. But you need to think about the insurance. Now, most insurances, the way they work is the more expensive a car is, the higher your insurance is. The cheaper a car is, the cheaper your insurance is. So now you have 3 bills to consider. You have what? The cost of the car, the taxes that you're going to pay for the car, and the insurance that usually, if you want to break it down by month or 6 months, it'll cost you a pretty penny, depending on how expensive the car or how cheap is the car. So consider that. The cheaper you buy a car, or the older the car is, that makes it cheaper, the cheaper the insurance usually is. Now, those 3 things, you can pretty much look at it as standard costs. Those are costs that even if you never use the car ever, you would still have to pay just to own the car. Now, those are things that you can look at in that way. So like, let's say you just purchased a car and you park it in your garage. Those 3 things usually you would have to pay just to own and keep the car. So those are costs that are going to come no matter what. Now, other costs that are going to come, I'm going to say these costs are coming due to how you use the car, your usage of the car. Now, the first one, which is the 4th thing I would like to talk about, is the type of gas for your car. Now, of course, a lot of people don't consider this, because if you are able, hopefully, if you are able to buy a higher luxury car, you should be able to buy a higher octane gas. So if you're not aware, there are different kinds of gas. You have the 87, 88, 89, 90, 93. I might be off with some of the numbers, but fill in the blanks. Depending on those different levels of gas, they usually go higher. So the more efficient cars, or the cars that are more about speed and efficiency, they usually use a higher octane gas, which is usually on the higher level in cost. And the ones that are just regular cars that get you from point A to point B, that they could be efficient as well, don't get me wrong, use cheaper gas. Now, of course, if you know me, I went with the cheaper gas one. So you have to consider, if you want to buy a high-end car, if you happen to buy a luxury car that is up there in age, but still uses the high octane, you have to consider, are you willing to pay 50 cents more per gallon, or a dollar more per gallon on gas just to get you to the same destination? If you ask me, I wouldn't. Now, that's the fourth thing. Now, the fifth thing I want to mention is maintenance on the car. Now, of course, just like everything in the world, things have wear and tear. So as you use things, it wears down. You have to keep it, maintain it to extend the life of it. Maintenance for most cars are usually the things that are used most of the time. So you have the wheels, the brakes, the calipers, the rotors, the timing belt, driving belt, the batteries, a bunch of stuff. I can name a whole ton of things. You have to consider now, for the maintenance of the car, what is the cost of fixing those things? Now, of course, I went the route of trying to learn some of these things so that I could actually reduce my cost for mechanics. So I learned simple things like, oil change, how to change the brakes, how to rotate your tires, stuff like that. Sometimes you have to invest in tools to be able to reduce your cost in the long run. Okay, so you have to consider those. You might want to just look, ask a mechanic if you have a good friend, or just go to a mechanic store if you have an idea of what car you want to buy, and ask them around, hey, how much does it usually cost to do these kind of things? Just give you an idea so that you're more prepared in case these things happen, to, put the money aside so it's not something drastic that can, throw you off course. Now, that I would say is the fifth thing. Hope you're keeping account. The first one was cost of the car. Second one was the tax for the car. Third one was the insurance. Fourth one was the type of gas you would put into the car. Fifth one was the maintenance for the car. And I would have to say the sixth one, mileage per gallon. Now, of course, there are different styles of cars. Some are small, some are big, some are electric. Now, you have to consider, or you should consider, I'm not trying to force you to do anything that you don't want to do, but you should consider how many miles a gallon will take you in that car. Now, of course, if you are able to find a car that gives you 8 miles per gallon, I think those are like the Hummers and, the Escalades, the huge cars, something like that. That means you'll be spending a whole lot more on gas to go the distance you already decided you're going to go anyway, right? And if you have a car that goes 40 miles on a gallon, you can go to a whole lot more places and spend a whole lot less. What do you need it for? What are you using the car for? Is the car for looks? Are you trying to impress anybody on the outside? Are you trying to make sure people know that you have the money to burn? Because technically, if you're buying a $5,000 car, I don't know if you do. But if you are looking that way, you have to consider how many miles per gallon can this car do? Okay, so I would go the route of course, depending on your size, how big you are, what you can fit in, try to find a car that does the best mileage per gallon. Look, nobody at this point in life where you are trying to save money and focus on, putting yourself in the next bracket, don't worry about what people think about the car you buy. Who cares? Okay, is it doing the job of getting you to point A to point B? If it is, don't care about that. But that's for another topic. Now, so that's the sixth thing, mileage per gallon. Now, the next thing I want to talk about, the seventh, that I think you should consider is longevity of the car. How long do those cars usually last on the road? Do they break down easily? Is it one of those cars that, you use it for 3 years and after 3 years, you start getting everything, all the bills, as in everything starts breaking, like the transmission, the brakes, everything, the engine knocks, just everything. If it's like that, you might want to steer clear of those kind of cars. Now, I'm not trying to give you advice of which cars those are, But try and do some research to figure out which cars usually usually last extremely long, have a good long shelf life, or you can use them to the ground and they just keep chugging and chugging and chugging. So try to research that. Do a little research to figure out which cars are best, and even if you buy them older, they might have more years to go before they really start taking money from your piggy bank. Now, if you are not the kind of person that is looking for a car for the longevity, if you're saying, hey, I just need this car for maybe just 3 years, 4 years, when I say a longevity, I'm thinking a 10-year span. That's just me, at least. But if you're looking for a car to hold you off for the first 3-4 years, then maybe you might want to consider resale value. Try to get some of your money back. Like, if you're done with what you want to do with the car, can you sell it to get some of your money back to buy the next car, or go back on the bus, use your Legacy Benz or your two-wheel bike, whichever one it is. But consider those things. When you consider all those things, and then before you purchase a car, I think it's a very good starting point for you to make sure you don't fall into any kind of weird bad debt that you don't want to get back into when you get the car. And the last that I would say, number 9, is, does it provide what you need? Now, of course, some people buy cars for a lot of different reasons. People that have a lot more money to burn might buy cars because it's flashy, it looks good. It's easier to pick women, men, whichever one they want to pick up. Easier to pick them up. Some people might buy cars because they need it to go from point A to point B. They need something to use that's more dependable for them to get them to a destination. Some people buy cars because they want to use it as a taxi. Whatever your reason for buying the car is, make sure and you actually, the reason is sufficient, as in it's the car that you purchased provides all the reasons you want. Make sure it provides everything you need. If you need, make sure a car that has at least AC, maybe it has a heater, whatever things that you think that you need for that car, make sure whatever you're buying, it has everything. I mean, you can do away with some of the extravagant things like a fridge in the car, or the ones that have a massager, or the ones that have sunroof. Those are just luxury stuff. But make sure you focus on your necessities and your needs to make sure the car covers that. Now, remember, I went through 9 things. I'm going to go through them again so that you remember. Make sure that you have to think about the cost of the car. Before you buy a car, think about the cost of the car. Think about the taxes you will pay for the car. Think about the insurance you will pay for the car. Think about the type of gas for the car, the cost of it. Gas goes up and down every single time. Think about the cost for maintenance and car parts. Then you also have to think of the mileage per gallon. How far can it go on the mileage per gallon? Because that will help you save money as well. Think about the longevity of the car. How long do you want to keep it? Also think about the resale value in case you don't want to keep it for too long. Or even if you keep it for the 10 years or more that you're thinking of, can you actually still sell the car? Some cars can still sell even after keeping it that long. And last but not least, does it provide what you need? If you can answer all those questions and you're satisfied with that, and you have the money to pay for all those things, I do believe you might be ready to purchase your car. So go ahead, purchase the car, rev it up, and hopefully you get to your destination, point A to point B, safe and sound. Thanks a lot for listening. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys come back for any more videos that I will provide for you. And please click that bell to get notified for when your next videos come out, and click on the subscribe button. I need it. Talk to you guys later. Have a great day. Bye.